The rain poured endlessly over Manhattan streets as Arthur Thompson, CEO of the largest fintech company on the East Coast, collapsed in tears right in the middle of Wall Street. At 42, with an estimated net worth of $2 billion, he wept like a lost child, drenched, broken, and hollowed out. That's when a small figure approached. A black girl, no older than 10, barefoot, dressed in rags, clutching a stale piece of bread, likely her only meal of the day. "Sir, are you crying because you're hungry too?" she asked, her voice innocent yet aching, offering half the bread to the man in a $3,000 suit now soaked through. Arthur lifted his bloodshot eyes and met her worried gaze. For a surreal moment, the richest man in New York was comforted by a child who clearly had no place to sleep tonight. "No, sweetheart," he whispered hoarsely, "not hunger." "Then it must be because you miss someone," the girl said with a wisdom far beyond her years. "My grandma always said there are only two kinds of tears, tears of hunger and tears of missing." Her simple words pierced through every wall Arthur had built. Today marked exactly 1 year since he lost custody of his son Michael when his ex-wife moved to London with their 8-year-old boy. "What's your name?" Arthur asked, brushing his face with the back of his hand. "Isabella," she replied, smiling and revealing 2 missing front teeth. "And I'm Arthur. Nice to meet you, Isabella." She studied him carefully as if weighing whether to trust him. Then suddenly she broke the bread in half and insisted he take it. "I can't cure your missing, but I can share my bread. Food that's shared warms the heart more than it fills the belly." Arthur took it, his throat tightening. One of the most powerful men on Wall Street now receiving charity from a child who had likely gone days without a real meal. "Isabella, where do you live?" Her smile faded. "Anywhere. Nowhere. Since Mama disappeared, I take care of myself." "Your mother disappeared." Arthur's concern broke through. "About 6 months ago. She worked cleaning buildings like that one." Isabella pointed toward the glass fintech tower looming behind him. "One day a fancy lady gave her some chocolate. After eating it, Mama got strange. The next day, men in suits came and said they'd take her to a doctor. I haven't seen her since." Arthur shivered. Something about her story stirred a dark, familiar unease. "No one looked after you after that." "They put me in a foster home, but I ran away. Kids there fought all the time, and the grown-ups didn't care." As they spoke, Arthur noticed Isabella's sharp awareness of her surroundings, like she had mapped every corner of the city, knowing which streets were safe and which weren't. A 10-year-old surviving 6 months alone on Manhattan's streets. "Isabella, do you have somewhere to sleep tonight? It's going to storm." She shrugged. It seemed to be her habit. "I'll manage. There's a little spot under the overpass that keeps the rain off," Arthur decided instantly. "Why don't you come have dinner with me? My place is nearby. I promise it'll be safe." Her eyes narrowed, wary. Life on the streets had taught her not to trust easily. "Why would you do that for me? You don't even know me." The bluntness caught him, but the answer came naturally. "Because you offered me bread when you thought I was hungry. Because today is a sad day for me and you made it lighter. And because no child deserves to be alone on the streets." Isabella thought for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. But if you do anything weird, I'll scream and run." "Fair enough." Arthur smiled, rising and holding out his hand. They walked through the rain-slicked streets toward his Upper East Side apartment. Unease gnawed at him. A black child abandoned her mother, vanishing after eating chocolate from a wealthy stranger. Something was very wrong here, and this meeting did not feel like chance. What unsettled Arthur most was this: behind Isabella's innocence, she seemed to understand the world more than any 10-year-old should. Arthur smiled faintly, though his chest tightened with grief. All his wealth, yet he couldn't keep his own son close. "Would you like a hot shower before dinner?" he asked gently. While Isabella bathed, Arthur picked up his phone. The first call was to his personal lawyer, Thomas Mitchell, one of the sharpest criminal defense attorneys in Manhattan. "Tom, I need to see you. Not over the phone. Can you come to my apartment within the hour?" "Of course, Arthur. Is this about the custody battle for Michael? No. It's more complicated. It's about a missing child, and it may be tied to fintech solutions." On the other end of the line, there was silence. "Arthur, you're starting to worry me. What exactly are we talking about here?" "Meet me in an hour and bring every document you can find on child abduction protocols." The second call was to Rebecca Chun, head of corporate security at FinTech Solutions. Rebecca had worked for the FBI for 10 years before Arthur recruited her, and her loyalty was beyond question. Rebecca, I need you to discreetly send me the full list of contracted janitorial staff from the past 2 years, especially black women between the ages of 25 and 40. Is this related to some kind of internal investigation? Possibly. And Rebecca, keep this between us for now. When Isabella stepped out of the bathroom wrapped in the robe Arthur had found for her, she looked like a completely different child, her hair clean, her face bright. Something in Isabella's appearance tugged at Arthur. She resembled someone he couldn't quite place. Isabella, do you remember your mother's full name, Jasmine Washington? The girl replied, settling at the table where Arthur had laid out a simple dinner. People on the street just called her Jazz. Arthur almost choked on his coffee. Jasmine Washington. The name was familiar, very familiar. At monthly executive meetings, he always reviewed reports on outsourced staff. He had just seen that name not long ago. Isabella, do you know what floor your mom worked on in my building? The girl frowned, trying hard to remember. She said it was a very high floor where the important meetings happened. Sometimes she even heard loud voices behind the doors. Arthur felt his blood turn cold. The 42nd floor. That was where FinTech Solutions' executive boardroom was located, a place only 5 people had free access to: himself, Vice President Victoria Ashford, CFO, James Harrison, HR Director, Patricia Wells, and... Did your mom ever mention a name? The person who gave her the chocolate? Isabella nibbled at the bread Arthur had made, thinking. She said it was a very elegant lady with silver hair always pulled back tight. She wore expensive glasses and talked to the women staff like they were silly little children. Arthur felt as if someone had punched him in the gut. That description matched perfectly with Victoria Ashford, the 58-year-old vice president who had mentored him when the company was founded 15 years ago. Victoria, the woman who had helped him build the entire financial empire. Victoria, the one with unrestricted access to every company system. Isabella, did your mom ever mention overhearing anything specific in those meetings? The girl's eyes narrowed slightly. And for the first time, Arthur noticed an intelligence far sharper than her 10 years should allow. Uncle Arthur, Isabella said slowly. Do you think the woman who gave my mom chocolate is the same one who still works at your company? The bluntness of the question left Arthur stunned. Isabella was connecting dots at an astonishing pace. Maybe he admitted. And if so, then we're going to find out the truth about your mom. Just then the intercom buzzed. Thomas Mitchell had arrived. Tom's here, Arthur said. He's my lawyer and someone I trust completely. Can you tell him what you just told me? Isabella nodded solemnly, as if she understood the gravity of the moment. Thomas Mitchell was a tall, lean man with silver hair and piercing eyes that had unsettled prosecutors for decades. As he listened to Arthur's account, he simply took quiet notes. Let me summarize, Thomas said finally. A contracted employee of your company disappears after eating chocolate given to her by someone who may be your vice president. Her daughter becomes an orphan and survives on the streets for 6 months. And you believe this is tied to what exactly? Arthur took a deep breath. Tom, 3 months ago, Victoria started pressuring me to sell my controlling stake in the company. She said it was time to professionalize management and bring in institutional investors. I flatly refused. Last week, she hinted that I should reconsider before some unfavorable information about the company came out. Arthur and Thomas exchanged a knowing look. In the business world, unfavorable information was often code for blackmail. You think Jasmine Washington might have witnessed something involving Victoria, not just that, Arthur replied, opening his laptop. Rebecca just sent me the list of contracted staff. Jasmine Washington was terminated on the exact day Isabella says her mom disappeared. The listed reason: violation of security protocol. Thomas leaned forward to scan the screen. That means Victoria knew exactly who Jasmine was and had a motive to get rid of her. There's more. Arthur continued scrolling through the internal files. Jasmine was assigned to clean the executive boardroom on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the same days Victoria held private meetings with outside investors. Isabella, who had been sitting quietly, suddenly spoke. My mom always said powerful people do bad things when they think nobody's watching. She must have seen something she wasn't supposed to, right? Uncle. That premature wisdom born of hardship silenced both men. Arthur Thomas said gravely, "If your suspicions are correct, this is a conspiracy to silence a witness and cover up corporate crime. This is far bigger than a power struggle." Arthur nodded, his eyes blazing with the same fire Thomas had seen in the courtroom, the fire of someone ready to fight no matter the cost. "Tom, I want you to prepare the paperwork for temporary guardianship of Isabella, and I need you to hire the best private investigator in New York. As for the unofficial side," Arthur allowed a smile, though it carried no humor. "Victoria Ashford has no idea who she's up against. She only knows the image of a successful CEO who's been an absent father. She's never seen what I become when someone dares to threaten an innocent child." As Thomas noted the next legal steps, Arthur watched Isabella piecing together a puzzle on the coffee table. From time to time, she looked up, her eyes quietly observing the adult's eyes that seemed to understand far more than her years. There was something in Isabella's eyes, an intelligence, a hard-earned sharpness born of survival that made Arthur suspect she was holding on to more than she let on. Perhaps Jasmine had shared more with her daughter than any child should have to know. Each new revelation only deepened Arthur's conviction that their rain-soaked encounter had never been accidental. Victoria had underestimated the power of truth, and she was about to pay for the gravest mistake of her career, tearing a mother away from her child. Over the next 3 days, Arthur Thompson became a man Victoria Ashford had never faced before, a cautious, meticulous, and dangerously prepared CEO. While she believed her threats had cowed him, Arthur was quietly building a case that would expose the darkest crimes of his career. Rebecca Chun became his most valuable ally. Not only did she confirm that Jasmine had indeed been the cleaner present during those private board meetings, she uncovered something even more chilling. 3 other contract workers had been dismissed for security violations over the past 2 years, all after working on the 42nd floor. "Arthur, this can't be a coincidence," Rebecca said during a clandestine meeting in his apartment. "We're looking at a systematic pattern of witness elimination." Meanwhile, Isabella, now slowly adjusting to her new life, sat in the living room doing homework, catching fragments of the hushed conversations. Arthur had quietly arranged for her enrollment in a discreet private school nearby, pulling strings to fast-track the paperwork. "Uncle Arthur," she said during dinner that night, "can I tell you something important about Mom?" Arthur and Rebecca instantly focused on her. Mom always wrote things down in a little notebook she hid under the mattress. She told me if I ever heard something I wasn't supposed to, I should write it down so I wouldn't forget. Arthur's pulse quickened. "Isabella, do you still have that notebook?" "When those people came to take Mom, I grabbed a few things before running from the camp. The notebook's in my backpack. I hid it somewhere safe." Arthur and Rebecca exchanged a charged look. If Jasmine had kept records, they might hold the decisive evidence. "Could you take us there?" Rebecca asked gently. The next day, Isabella led them through alleys and service tunnels to an abandoned subway passage. There, behind a loose chain-link barrier, lay a worn-out backpack. Inside, along with a few clothes and family photos, was a hardbound notebook crammed with Jasmine's careful notes. The pages contained dates, times, names, and detailed summaries of conversations she had overheard while cleaning. October 23rd, Victoria met with men with Russian accents. They discussed moving money offshore, mentioned laundering $50 million through shell companies. November 15th, Victoria argued on the phone with someone named Martinez. She warned if he didn't cooperate, accidents happened to people who talk too much. December 2nd, Victoria showed a man in a gray suit Cayman account statements. She laughed, saying Arthur would never suspect her because he trusted her like a sister. Each page made Arthur's blood boil hotter. Victoria hadn't merely tried to force him to sell the company, she had turned fintech solutions into a front for international money laundering. "There's more," Rebecca said, pointing to the final entry dated the very day Jasmine disappeared, January 15th. "Victoria knows I've been listening. She gave me chocolate, said it was a special import. Tasted strange, bitter. I felt dizzy. If anything happens to me, Isabella is with the neighbor. Please, someone take care of her." The silence that followed was broken by Isabella's small, trembling voice. "So Mom knew something bad was coming, didn't she?" Arthur knelt beside her, taking her tiny hands in his. "Your mom was very smart, Isabella, and incredibly brave. She wrote everything down so that one day the truth would come out." Meanwhile, Victoria Ashford was committing the most arrogant blunder of her career, Convinced that Jasmine's disappearance had erased every threat, she escalated her pressure on Arthur, sending increasingly brazen messages about her plan to seize the company. Arthur, I hope you've reconsidered our discussion about professionalizing fintech's leadership structure. It would be a shame if certain irregularities in your tax filings came to light right as we enter negotiations with international investors. What Victoria didn't know was that Arthur had quietly installed surveillance software across the company's entire system. Every email she sent, every phone call on her corporate line, every login to the servers, everything was being recorded and forwarded directly to Rebecca. Thomas Mitchell was preparing a devastating legal dossier. Beyond money laundering, they now had evidence of attempted murder, child endangerment, corporate extortion, and even international conspiracy. Arthur, this goes way beyond Victoria, Thomas explained during a late-night meeting. The connections we're finding point to an entire criminal network operating behind legitimate corporations. Victoria's just one link, but she's a critical one. How long until you can guarantee that when we strike she can't wriggle free? Arthur asked. 2 more days. I need coordination with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. When we move, it has to be airtight. That night, Arthur tucked Isabella into bed and read her a fairy tale, as had quickly become their routine. But this time she looked at him with wide, searching eyes and asked a question that pierced his heart. Uncle Arthur, when you catch the bad lady who hurt my mom, will you still be my temporary dad? The simple words carried an emotional weight that shook Arthur to his core. In just a single week, this extraordinary child had filled a void in his life he hadn't even known existed. Isabella, if you want me to, I would be honored to be your dad forever, not just for now. The radiant smile that spread across her face outshone all the lights of Manhattan. The very next day, Victoria made her final, fatal mistake. Frustrated that Arthur continued to appear passive, she called an emergency board meeting intending to force a vote to strip him of the chairmanship. She typed the email briskly. I need all board members present at 10 a.m. tomorrow. We have urgent leadership matters that cannot be delayed. Arthur read it with a smile Rebecca would later describe as purely predatory. Victoria had dug her own grave by calling the very meeting he needed to expose her in front of every crucial witness. Rebecca, call Thomas. It's time. And Isabella goes to school tomorrow as usual. By the time she comes home, this will all be over and will be ready to find her mother. Arthur was convinced Jasmine Washington was still alive somewhere. Victoria was too calculating to commit murder. Locking someone away in a psychiatric facility was far cleaner and far easier to control. While Victoria slept soundly in her penthouse, believing she would seize full control of fintech solutions by morning, Arthur stayed awake, refining every final detail of a reckoning that would cut sharp as a scalpel and crash down like a tidal wave. For 15 years, Victoria had dismissed him as a brilliant but naive young man dependent on her guidance. What she was about to discover was that she had created a monster of her own making, not one of cruelty, but of relentless justice. And the price of terrorizing an innocent child would now be paid with compound interest, public humiliation, and total annihilation. The FinTech Solutions boardroom had never seen a battle like this. At exactly 10 a.m., Victoria Ashford strode in with total confidence, clutching the briefcase of forged documents she planned to use to brand Arthur a tax fraud. Her plan was simple: force a no-confidence vote and take over the company. Gentlemen of the board, she began in her commanding voice, I've called this meeting to address the failures in leadership that are putting this company at risk. Arthur sat calmly watching her dig herself deeper. Beside him, Thomas Mitchell waited for the perfect moment to strike. I have evidence Arthur has made questionable decisions that could jeopardize our international investors. Victoria pressed on opening the briefcase. I believe it is time for a change in leadership. That was the moment Arthur rose to his feet. Victoria, how interesting you mention international investors, especially considering your secret meetings with Russian crime syndicates. Her face went pale. What did you just say? Arthur signaled Thomas. The projector flickered to life. On the screen appeared the first page of Jasmine Washington's notebook, handwritten notes documenting money laundering conversations. This is Jasmine Washington's handwriting, the contract employee you eliminated because she overheard too much. Arthur said, his voice icy enough to make Victoria falter. That's absurd. I never October 23rd, Arthur read aloud. Victoria met with men with Russian accents. They discussed moving 50 million through shell companies. The board members exchanged shocked glances. Victoria tried to keep composure, but her voice shook. Anyone can fake notes. Thomas Mitchell smiled coldly, which is why we brought the recordings. Audio filled the room, Victoria's voice unmistakable, discussing illicit banking, threatening witnesses, and plotting to use fintech solutions as cover for international crime. No. How did you get this? Rebecca Chun, our head of security, installed a surveillance system across the company last week, Arthur explained evenly. Every call, every email, every server access was captured. Victoria looked around desperately but met only horrified stares from her peers. You don't understand. I built this company with Arthur. You built a criminal empire with my company. Arthur cut in, and when Jasmine Washington uncovered it, you poisoned her and locked her in a psychiatric ward under a false identity. The doors opened. 2 federal agents entered. Victoria Ashford, you are under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, attempted murder, and kidnapping a minor. Victoria lunged to flee but stumbled onto the boardroom table. Arthur, please, we can make a deal. I taught you everything. You taught me to recognize people like you, Arthur replied as she was handcuffed. And you taught me sometimes justice needs a little help. As she was dragged away screaming her innocence, Arthur turned back to the board. Gentlemen, I apologize for letting a criminal infiltrate this company. But from today, FinTech Solutions will be a model of corporate transparency. Rebecca Chun entered with more documents. Arthur, we found Victoria's offshore accounts. Over 2.3 billion in illegal transactions over the last 5 years. The room fell into stunned silence. Victoria Ashford, the so-called Queen of Manhattan Finance, had just been unmasked as one of the decade's greatest financial criminals. And Jasmine Washington, Arthur asked, We've identified the hospital. The rescue operation begins this afternoon. Arthur allowed himself a smile, the first in days. Isabella would soon have her mother back. Victoria would lose everything, her wealth, her reputation, her freedom. And he had proved that underestimating a father driven by justice was the costliest mistake any criminal could make. Yet as Victoria was led away to face decades in prison, one question still hung in the air. Would Jasmine Washington ever fully recover after years of forced sedation? And what would her reunion with her daughter look like after so much stolen time?